What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel, or Bizarro World News is what we're going to cover today, or Clown World News, whatever you want to call it. This stuff would be hilarious, except for it's real, and it's really happening here in the United States of America, and we should all be greatly concerned about this. So I wanted to get into this story right away that I found today. I'm just shaking my head like you wouldn't believe. I'm going to wear out my neck joints just shaking my head so much from reading through this garbage that's coming out of prestigious universities. One of the most prestigious universities in the entire world, Stanford University, releases a list of harmful and racist words to eliminate, including American, grandfather, and long time no see. So this list is not covering all of the words they're banning at Stanford University, but it'll give you a taste of what's to come. So let's get into these words that Stanford says they need to eliminate. Walk-in is the first one. And instead of using walk-in, they want you to use drop-in or open office. And the reason they give is they say it's ableist language that trivializes the experiences of people living with disabilities. So you're basically making fun of the handicap. See, they're not even considering what your intent is. What is the intent behind the statement when you make it? If you made it to make fun of someone that was in a wheelchair or something like that, then yes, I guess that would be ableist language, and you'd be, wrong for doing that sort of thing. But most of us aren't doing that when we use the phrase walk-in. So anyways, moving on. The next one, grandfather, and this is a big deal. They want to swap in legacy, and the reason is they say this term has its roots in the grandfather clause adopted by southern states denying voting rights to blacks. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about anything to do with southern states denying voting rights to blacks when you've used or written the word grandfather? For me, the answer is no. So again, it has to do with intent behind the language. No one is out there that I'm aware of using grandfather in a racist sort of way. This is just about eliminating words from our vernacular, such as mother, father, grandfather. Next it'll be grandmother. I don't know. They'll find some way to make aunts and uncles racist before it's all over. I mean, it's just... This is madness, guys. You can't allow them to do this. Next word here, guru. Swap in expert, they say, or subject matter expert, SME, or primary, or leader, or teacher, or guide. The reason is in the Buddhist and Hindu traditions, the word is a sign of respect. Using it casually negates the original value. So somehow or another, by us using a word, guru, that's common in our vernacular here in the United States, that's somehow disrespectful to Buddhists and Hindu people. I don't believe that. I don't believe the intent behind using the term guru has anything to do with being disrespectful to them. Now, they could view it that way, and they could choose to be victims, like this whole victimhood mentality that's being promoted all around our country, where everyone's a victim. And as soon as you're a victim, then now you can go after everybody else that got you to be a victim, made you become a victim, right? It's unreal. What happened to the old thing that our parents told us, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Probably most of the real Buddhists and Hindu people kind of have a similar thing along those lines, and they're probably not that worried about it if somebody that's not a Buddhist or a Hindu uses guru inappropriately. They're not going to be all offended or upset about it. I've never heard anyone saying this. They're making up, demons that don't exist. They're creating monsters that are going to jump out of the corner where there are no monsters. No one's ever complained about this. The next one is a really big one. Brave. And they don't have a swap for this one. They say none. Do not use it. And they say the reason is this term perpetuates the stereotype of the noble, courageous savage, equating the indigenous male as being less than a man. Now, does that mean saying land of the free, home of the brave is now equating the indigenous male as being less than a man? No, not at all. Not at all. Where do these people come up with this backwards philosophy of banning things? I mean, and these are the reasons they're giving. They're saying that it perpetuates a stereotype of the noble, courageous savage. I've never, ever thought that. When I think of someone being brave, I'm thinking of like courageous or, you know, going out into battle and doing things that the other guys couldn't do because they were pinned down or whatever. And then there's this one cat that jumps up and goes and does it. That's brave. It has nothing to do with Native Americans or noble, courageous savages. I mean, this is just outrageous. And again, America the Beautiful, you know, doesn't it end with land of the free, home of the brave? I mean, is that song now considered racist against Native Americans? I don't know. You know, and I have a small percentage of Native American in my blood, and I'm not offended by that. Let me know if you've got any Native American in your blood and if you're offended by the term brave being used. Or is this just something some Karen is making up? Oh, by the way, Karen is one of them you're not allowed to say anymore. Next one, man hours. Person, they want to swap it with person hours, effort hours, labor time. This term reinforces male-dominated language. How about they look at it in the terms or in the sense of like mankind? You know, that's all the entire species, or man. That's the entire species of mankind, including females. Oh, no, 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 no. That's misogynistic. You can't say that. They've got to get rid of that. Got to ban it. You know who else used to like to ban stuff? I don't want to say it because it'll get my video taken down. But, you know, yeah, he's the guy that Kanye's been talking about all favorably here lately. That guy used to really love to ban stuff. Really bad dude. You should look into him. Next up here, this is a big deal. The original term, American. They want to swap U.S. citizen. And the reason, this term often refers to people from the United States only, thereby insinuating that the U.S. is the most important country in the Americas, which is actually made up of 42 countries, don't you know? So they do not want us to be proud, brave Americans, because this term is just wrong in so many ways that would just set off all kinds of trigger warnings and things. So that's another one we're not allowed to talk about. We'll get into that one in a minute. This is just unbelievable. They don't want you to be a proud American and use the term American and not realize that, yes, the continent of America is more than just the United States of America. But as an American citizen of the United States of America, I don't feel that that's inappropriate. In fact, many of our traditions and our songs and our schools and our everything about things that we're taught growing up, or we used to be taught, we're supposed to be American. And just unbelievable. These people can find a way to be offended no matter what happens. You know, a breeze blows by and they don't like it. Oh, I'm offended. You know, I'm offended that breeze blew me like that. It's racist. Just unbelievable. And this is a direct attack. Not being able to use the term American, this is a direct attack on American exceptionalism, or the idea or ideal of American exceptionalism. That's what they're saying. They don't want that. They don't believe in that. They don't want people around that believe in that. So next up, the term white space. You know, so like if you have a white space, after you finish a sentence, you know, you'll have a little white space in there, whatever, a blank space. Well, they want you to say empty space because white space assigns value connotations based on color. And they say, not me, they say white equals good, an act which is subconsciously racialized. So they're saying that you're being a racist down at the subconscious level. I mean, this is just over the top. White space? I mean, really? Is there somebody that's out there that's offended that easily? Maybe their mom and dad didn't teach them about sticks and stones. I don't know. So the next term here, and I found this one quite funny because considering the way the economy's going, there's probably going to be a lot more people out there getting into sex work in the future and becoming prostitutes. So they don't want you to say prostitute anymore because they want you to say person who engages in sex work. Because using person first language helps to not define people by just one of their characteristics. So they're saying that if you call someone a prostitute, you're basically not treating them as a person first. You're treating them as a sex worker first or whatever. Well, I mean, look, there's a reason it's supposed to be illegal in our country, and it's not in every state. There are some states that allow it and look the other way and things like that. But, if they would allow the police to do their jobs, we could probably eliminate most of these problems, in short order. Within 6 months, the gangs, the prostitutes, the drugs, all that stuff could be off the street. But you'd have to, let the police do some things that wouldn't be PC today. Let's just put it that way. Next one here. This is just unbelievable. Killing two birds with one stone. How many times have you guys used that phrase, that old colloquialism? I've used it many times myself. I use it all the time. I'm going to continue to use it. Killing two birds with one stone. It means, you're getting multiple things done with one effort. It's pretty easy. Well, they say this expression normalizes violence against animals. So have you ever, how insane are these people? Have you ever used the phrase killing two birds with one stone and thought, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go and be violent towards an animal of some kind? I mean, no, of course not. It's just an expression. Just unbelievable. They say it normalizes violence against animals. And last but not least here, they say trigger warning. I mentioned it earlier. They want to swap in content note because trigger warning could be offensive to people. The phrase can cause stress about what's to follow. You don't want to stress out some little snowflake by saying, trigger warning, you're about to get triggered if this happens. And additionally, one can never know what may or may not trigger a particular person. So, yeah, that's bad. You don't want to do that. You don't want to ever say trigger warning. I mean, that could just really make a snowflake melt down, and that's the last thing you'd want to do, right? So, yeah, that's bad enough. Stanford University's doing all that stuff and more. Go look it up yourself. This is even worse. West Point announces woke, jargon-filled plot to rename every single thing that memorializes or commemorates our history. Yeah. West Point is getting into the mix, too, of wokeism, and they're in real hard and heavy, and that's one of the reasons, I would say, that we're not allowed to get our recruitment goals met anymore. It's because people are realizing, like, look, I don't want to be a part of some woke military. I mean, if you look at the compare and contrast between the USA current recruitment videos that they're running around and throughout our country right now and what they're doing in Russia, I mean, it's just a shame. It's shameful what they're doing to our military. And let me give you some examples here of what's going on. So West Point says during the holiday break, we will begin a multi-phase process in accordance with the Department of Defense directives to remove, rename, or modify assets and real property at the United States Military Academy and West Point that commemorate or memorialize the Confederacy or those who voluntarily served with the Confederacy. It says, we will remove the portrait of Robert E. Lee in Confederate uniform from Jefferson Hall. We will remove the stone bust of Lee at Reconciliation Plaza and place it in storage on post, while moving the accompanying bust of Grant to the front of Grant Hall. Over the next several weeks, in collaboration with the class of 1957, West Point's Memorialization, History, and Museum Committee will select an appropriate quote about honor to replace the quote from Robert E. Lee at Honor Plaza. We expect a change to happen by early spring 2023. So amazingly, the report doesn't even include the quote. It must be so offensive that nobody can ever see it again. In reality, it's directly applicable to the concept of honor code and can clearly be detached from the conditions in which Lee made the statement. Lee merely said, a true glory and a true honor, the glory of duty done, the honor of integrity of principle. So I guess that's bad now because Lee, later on in his life, fought for the Confederacy. So we have to whitewash all of history. Oh, wait, am I allowed to say whitewash, or is that racist somehow? I mean, that's the point. They are perverting our language to the point where we're just not going to be able to say anything. That's part of the deal, and I've talked about it a lot here on my YouTube channel. I'm constantly subjected to censorship on different topics, pertaining to like the 2020 election. Can't talk about that. All the news that's coming out about COVID and the vaccine. Can't talk about any of that stuff. I mean, just so many things. Oh, the elections down in Brazil. Can't talk about that either. I mean, there are so many things that when you start looking at these things, you're like, why can't I talk about this stuff? And it should arouse your curiosity and make you go out and learn the actual truth of what's going on. But you're not going to be able to get that on MSM News. You're going to have to go, to some... You might have to go to some chat forums to kind of get a direction sometimes. A lot of times people come into the comments of the videos and they'll lead you down another rabbit hole that could lead you to some other truth that you may not have been aware of. I mean, just so many things are just out of control right now. I mean, you can see from the information that's been released so far from Twitter and all of the FBI influence. They were running Twitter. The FBI was running Twitter. And today they came out and said, hey, yeah, of course we were running it. Oh, you shouldn't have anything to be worried about. That's us running it. We do that stuff. That's what we do. They're admitting they're in all of these social media companies and media companies. They're feeding these people through Operation Mockingbird. I've talked about that program many times. It never ended. They may have changed the name to some other clandestine, covert name or something, but it's still there. They're still doing it. We just found proof of it through Twitter. Thankfully, they came out with it. But lastly, by the end of this year, the MHM will recommend names to replace the streets, buildings, and areas throughout West Point currently named for individuals who served in the Confederacy, specifically Lee Road, Beauregard Place, Hardy Place, Lee Barracks, Lee Housing Area, Lee Child Development Center. So they are deleting our history from us. And I'm not saying all of these guys are good or anything like that, but none of this stuff was a problem until the fake racism attack of George Floyd, when they said it was automatically racism because that man got killed. That guy that was on fentanyl got killed, and the whole country lost their freaking minds. I mean, just lost their minds. And I get it. The optics were bad. It was definitely a bad deal, and maybe they should be looking at like different procedures if that was standard operating procedures for that police department. But it doesn't mean you just destroy the entire history of the South. You just don't get to do that. So, and I guess they do if we allow them to do it. We need to be able to read the quotes and look at the actions of all of these different men as individuals and not lump them into a group for deletion. That's the dangers of this Orwellian 1984. It's not even doublespeak anymore. I don't even have, this is just deleting what you disagree with. A dangerous precedence is being set right now. I hope you guys are preparing for it. I mean, know the truth. It might be time to start like getting a hold of some old Encyclopedia Britannicas or something just so you can have the actual history, because they are deleting it right now before our very eyes. And the reason that this Stanford thing and this West Point thing is so important is this will go all throughout the education system, the public education system. If I had kids today, I would do everything in my power to homeschool them, even if that meant I had to live at lower wages and not make as much money as I'd be comfortable doing. It's much more important to get your kid and their mind informed about the truth. Anyways, guys, I don't want to just keep going on. This stuff just, I mean, again, it would be funny, except for we're on the edge of the abyss right now, on the edge of the cliff. And nobody's coming to save us. So prepare yourself, prepare your family, be prepared to defend and save your own skin, because it may come down to that. Appreciate you tuning in. As always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.